But it was very difficult to rebel openly against the belief system. This belief system of critical race theory is going to lead to disaster because it is having this corrosive effect and the way that it's being taught as truth.
They said not only do you have to support this being taught in the schools, but you have to support this in the home.
That's a lot worse than other lies. I don't think that it's a question of there is some, when we lift this off our heads, everything will be great and we'll see the light.
I was unhappy with that. And I know a lot of parents were very unhappy with that. Unhappy with the direction that the school is going, but unhappy with the whole indoctrination aspect of this.
What does it mean to have children that challenge this belief system? And we need to flag them and we need to have conversations with them if they do that.
If you don't sign this, your daughter can't be in school. And I said, well, that's sort of blackmail. And
all in the name of goodness, all in the name of light and everything that is on the side of the angels.
George Floyd was really like the light switch went off and things just got ramped up to an enormous degree, where the head of school talked about some of the initiatives that they were going to do, and they made it seem like they're going to integrate this racial curriculum, this anti-racism curriculum, into everything, every class, into math.
Right, and these things were promoted as moral absolutes. Right, so if you care about being a good person, you will believe these things. Right, and adults have a hard time challenging that. I had a hard time challenging it. How are you going to ask a child to challenge it? I was attracted to the ideology that now I feel somewhat differently about because it was a call to the heart, to feel something for groups of people that have been marginalized historically and in the present.
I wrote the letter to help parents to speak up. Give them a little bit of ammunition for how to do it, and more importantly, for some cover. Where they said, okay, we're not the first one to do this. We're not the first one to do this publicly. This is completely different. They advocated for Black Lives Matter, and they want families to advocate for Black Lives Matter. But to say that we want your daughter, from kindergarten through 12th grade, we want your family to be an activist. This is what they're really saying. It is not okay, and this is the anti-racism principle, right, where they say, okay, if you're not anti-racist, you're racist. It's more even than that. It's that if you just say silent, you're racist.
The thing that really bothered me the most was how it takes place at the level of identity. How we think of ourselves is such a deep and important question for young people. The anti-racist programming would start by acknowledging the unique nature of individuals. And they would get the kids to say, who are you? What do you like? What kind of preferences do you have? Right? What kind of music do you like? How do you define yourself? And then very rapidly, they would shift to a racialized identity. And they would get the kids to sort of move away from that and start to introject how society viewed them and accept that as a priority.
I had one parent tell me very recently that their kids, their kindergarten daughters had to draw a picture of themselves. In my daughter's kindergarten class, it was a big project. They drew, they could do whatever they wanted, their hair the way they wanted, freckles if they had. The assignment they were given now, whether they were pretty much only given skin color crayons, and the assignment was focus exclusively on getting your skin tone right. It's the only thing that matters.
The root of the word seduction is to lead, right? So when you seduce someone, you lead them away from themselves. When you educe, which is the root of education, you draw forth who that person is. You get them to, you inspire them, you get them curious, and you lead them out of themselves so that they can see who they truly are. I was speaking to a colleague. I asked her, have you met the new history teacher? And she said, yeah, I met him. And And I said, well, what's he like? She said, oh, he kind of reminds me of you. I said, oh, how? She said, well, he's a white guy. Is that it? You know, I can hear the objection in my head to my own objection, which is, see how it feels, white man? See how it feels to be thought of as your race? And I get it, right? I get it. But I don't see how that culture is helping. How do you undo racism by being pro-race?
So the anti-racism training is done by a consulting group called Pollyanna. They say over and over, we want to have the difficult conversations about race. So Pollyanna says that, the school says that. We want to have the difficult conversations about race. No, they don't.
They would justify it by saying, you know, we have teachers that haven't been trained in this. This is the latest expertise in this area. So we're actually doing these older teachers, or these teachers that aren't well versed in this, a favor.
If you hear your daughter singing along, you know, to a song that has the N-word, what do? Okay, look, these are not the real conversations on race.
Does the school value equity, inclusion, diversity, anti-racism over me or any individual teacher? Absolutely.
These are not the real conversations on why there are racial discrepancies in our society, on racial discrepancies in our schools. Everything they are doing is divisive. It is tearing people apart. And I have heard privately parents say, I am much less likely to have a play date with a girl of another race, or much less likely to reach out to moms of other races. Not because I'm racist, but because I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing.
I also have grave doubts about some of the doctrinaire stuff that gets spouted at us in the name of anti-racism.
Can you elaborate? Because it would help me. It would help me understand, like, what's going on.
I think that one of the things that's going on a little too much, and we've talked about this, is that the demonization of being white and the attempt to link anybody who's white to the perpetuation of white supremacy.
How does this performative minstrelsy of white people announcing their privilege, how does that help a black child navigate the world any better? If you try to say that objectivity is white supremacy, what is that telling students about math, which is the most objective discipline you can have? What is it saying? Is it saying that the Persians, the Chinese, the Arabs, all the groups globally that contributed to math, is it saying that they are all participating in white supremacy? Why would you do that? It seems that it's against the whole project, which is math belongs to everyone. Math is a global creation. And to attribute one of the foundational principles of it to one race, it negates all of those other contributions or whitewashes them.
So there was a high school student that wrote a rebuttal, and she wrote it very well, but I think she missed the point. And the key point was this: I know Latin is taught now at Brearley. The question is, will it be taught in the future at Brearley? Because to me, the writing is on the wall that they are going to eradicate things like teaching Latin. If you really cared about equity, you talk about getting rid of sibling preference, legacy preference, and preference for very wealthy families. You would use this huge endowment for better purposes.
There is no real metric by which success can be measured, since all of the work that needs to be done happens in the level of unconscious bias, and as things get more difficult, well, that's just revealing more unconscious biases, which require more experts to help navigate, and so it becomes a sort of endless boondoggle, which is terrific if you have a degree in this area and if you have services to sell these institutions.
Our country doesn't survive, not teaching history and civics, and it sure as hell doesn't survive bringing up our children to hate our own country.
I'd want to say to the student who feels intimidated or pushed into silence because they feel the consequences of challenging an idea in class or outside of class are too great, is too great. I want to say, be brave, be yourself, think for yourself, because you shouldn't have to lie. You shouldn't have to hide what you think, because the consequences of that for your growth and your long-term well-being is going to be greater than the short-term difficulties you will face for speaking out.